Hey loves, it's Magda K. Welcome. So let's talk about a conscious couple, or in fact, a two conscious couple, because that can also exist. If you're in the spiritual community, if you've been into any tribe of people into personal growth, that you've probably heard this concept of conscious couple and conscious relating and conscious communication and everything conscious and everything mature. And it's really important because truth is, most people show up in relationships in a totally unconscious way, but you can overdo it. So something that I definitely personally align with is that the main goal of a relationship is our growth. So our partner will be a very annoying mirror towards everything that we don't want to look at, but that we probably should, because in some way we are a victim or a prisoner of these parts of ourselves because they control us unconsciously. We don't know about it, so we're not actually in control of our lives. So if you look at a relationship as a vehicle of growth, it gives you so many opportunities to face that and work with it. And so absolutely, for most couples, you want to go from the unconscious to the conscious state by facing these things. However, once you get into the conscious state, there is a tendency of praising processes and triggers and all of this work. We have to talk about this, we have to process this all the time, and this is so tiring. You can overdo it. Look, just because the main goal or intention behind the relationship is growth, it doesn't mean you're not meant to enjoy it while it lasts. It's important to keep the balance and yes, have space, where if I get triggered, if I project, you mirror me, I get to, look into this. But I also want moments when we don't talk about triggers, when we don't talk about whether any one of us is projecting or not. So I want to share with you two things to be aware of when you already stepped into the conscious relating, to be aware of, because you can take it too far if you fall into these two traps. The first one is talking about everything, just doing too much of talking. For most people, you actually invite them, start talking, because they don't talk. And this is important because, if there's something that my partner did that annoyed me, let's say most people will be like, oh, it's okay, whatever, he will never understand, or what's the point, or no, it's fine, I'll deal with this, right? But then you've probably been in those arguments when suddenly your partner brings little things from the past, and sometimes from even 5 years ago, and you're like, how on earth do you even remember that? But this was one of those small things that they're like, whatever. Just because you don't talk about it, it doesn't mean it goes away. It actually gets suppressed in your body, but it's still there. It's still there, and it's building up. There's all this resentfulness and bitterness building up in you. These challenging conversations, they take energy, okay? And when you have this conversation, even if you're doing it in the most loving and mature way, it is hard. It is going to be triggering on some level. It's not the same as hugging your partner and kissing and looking into their eyes. It feels very different to have those difficult conversations. It takes energy from you to have those conversations. And you also need to remember, why are you in a relationship? Because when shit hits the fan, you'll be like, okay, you know what? I don't want to deal with it. I'm out. Wait. Why am I in it? Because I actually care about this person. Because with this person, I feel this and that. So we need these two things. We need energy and we need motivation to want to go through these difficult conversations. So if something happens in your life and you start talking about it all the time, what you're doing is you're never giving yourself a chance to replenish these two important sources. So you never have a chance to actually get the energy. You just keep being drained because you continuously talk and think about the issue. And secondly, because now you're kind of upset with your partner, right? And it's something that stays with you over the time. Now you're not being reminded about the good things about that relationship and why you would want to actually go through this conversation. So what to do about that? Separate the issue from your daily life. And what I mean by this is, when something arises, schedule a time to talk about it. Knowing that there is a specific time when you will address what happened allows you to calm down, relax, and just let the issue be there. It's a little bit, okay, imagine like this, that you were walking outside and it was rainy, so your shoes got all dirty and muddy, right? And you need to clean them. But when you enter the house, you leave them outside of the house. You don't bring them inside of the house, right? And then if you want to clean them, you can go outside and wash them there, but you don't have to bring the dirty shoes inside of the house and walk with them around the house and get the whole house dirty. You can separate the two. So you have the conversation scheduled. You will discuss it. You will be heard. It wasn't ignored. It wasn't forgotten. So before the conversation happens, just act as if the issue wasn't there. Now, a few tips about this conversation. First of all, when you ask to have that conversation, ask it in a way that it's more of an invitation. So ask your partner, darling, would it be okay for you if we spend about an hour tomorrow, any other day, to talk, because and you can say exactly what happened, the situation happened, and I really want us to sit down and talk about it. And ask, would tomorrow, 5 p.m. or after your work for about an hour, would that be okay? Ask them if it's okay with them to talk, and if it's okay with them to talk at this specific time. Right? It's important. Don't impose anything. You're not a mother, you're not a father talking to a child. And then when you sit together and you have this conversation, don't make it longer than 1 hour. Because again, after 1 hour, you're not going to have energy. And look, if within this 1 hour you don't get to the conclusion, you need to still talk, perfect. Schedule another time, maybe in 2 or 3 days. And again, from now until the time, forget about the issue. So don't talk about it. Don't bring it up. Instead, focus on yourself and your partner, on the connection that you have. Focus on lovemaking, on going out on dates. Remind yourself why you're together. Remind yourself why you love each other, why you choose to be with that person, and allow yourself to get the energy. Okay, so that was the first trap that people fall into. Now is the second one. And it's to pushing your partner into the work that they're not willing to or not ready to do. Look, when you meet and you come together, it's because at this specific moment you're compatible. And if you are, practicing conscious relating, that, then you're doing a lot of personal growth. And then this compatibility is also at the level of where you are in your inner work, right? But then over time, you're going to go like this. And sometimes you will cross, and sometimes you might go like this. And there will be moments when one of you will be ready to face something while the other one will not. And it really goes both ways. So let's assume that you're seeing your partner doing something, and you see that they're actually coming from their ego, they're projecting, right? And so, because you decided that you're in a relationship because, for the growth, that's the main reason you're in a conscious relationship. So you point it out to them. Darling, you are projecting right now. This is such a horrible thing to say. Because what you're doing is you're imposing your point of view on your partner. Okay? And look, and no matter if it comes from the place of love, why you want to do it, as long as you say to them what they're doing and what they should be doing instead, you're pushing and imposing. The only way you can bring such things up is through invitation. So here's what I mean by this. If I see, let's say, my man going to his shadows and projecting, I may say, darling, can I speak to you for a little bit? I wanted to share, I observed what happened yesterday, and I had a feeling that you may have been triggered and that maybe some old pain came up, and it basically turned our conversation into projection and attack because of this pain. And I wanted to ask you if it's something you would like to look at, and if so, I want you to know I'm here, and in any way you would like me to support you, I can. So would you like to look at it together? Is there any way I can support you in it? Or maybe you prefer to do it on your own. It's also fine. So with everything, I am basically checking in. Is it okay? Would you like to hear me talk about what happened? Would you like to know what I think? Would you like to know how I felt when that happened? Would you like to, is it okay if we look at it together? Is it okay if I assist you? Why is it so important to do it this way? because it's their life and it's their choice if they're going to look at it or not. And they have a right to tell to you, yes, thank you for sharing this. Yes, I would like to hear your advice. Yes, I would like to get your input. Yes, I would like to work through it with you. But they also have the right to say, no, I don't want to talk about it. No, I do not want to process that. It's very important we don't impose these things. So see, when I first got into spirituality and healing, and I was living in Southeast Asia, and I was visiting home for the first time since I got so deeply into this whole field. So I come home, and of course I'm arriving with like this attitude, I'm going to heal all of you. I have the solution. And all I did is I alienated every single person in my family because I was pushing all the time. None of them actually asked me, hey Magda, would you share something? I just assume because I know better that I have the right to tell them what they're doing wrong. And honestly, it was such a horrible trip home. We argued, we kept arguing, everyone. And after that, I saw a quote, which until today is one of my favorite quotes. And it's, the best gift you can give to anyone is to let them learn their own lessons at their own time. Look, if you're with your partner, really your job is to love them for who they are, is to accept them for who they are, is to respect them for who they are, not to try to change them. You can invite them to want to change. You can, lead by example. But you do not have the right to make them change, to force them to change. There may be something that you see in them and they're simply not ready for that. Secondly, they may simply not want to look at it. And guess what? That's okay too. So, if we really want to, we can find something to work on all the time. Like you could spend 24 hours, day after day, week after week, your whole life just by looking at your shadows and processing them. And you know what? That's not, in my opinion, what life is about. And when it's getting too much, I think it's okay to decide, okay, right now I just don't want to process something. Once again, don't impose. It's a person's life. It's their choice what they do and what they don't. And look, finally, you may think that, you see them coming from their ego, that they're projecting. But what if it's actually you projecting on them? This whole thing of projection, it's so freaking complicated. It's not that, you're projecting and I am not. Because now you're triggered about me projecting. If you're triggered, it means that you are projecting. So instead of just throwing these fancy spiritual terms at your partner, because what you're actually doing is trying to manipulate them, let that go and focus on yourself. Really, like in a relationship, I understand it is about your partner, it's about both of you together, but ultimately it's their life and it's your life. Focus on yourself, not your partner. Whether they're gonna grow and learn their lesson, it's up to them and not up to you. And you shouldn't really care about it so much because it's not your life. You care without attachment. And that's a big thing. You've probably heard about this whole concept, how to, love someone without attachment. Can you also care about a person's growth without getting attached to that growth? Attachment means that, yes, you want them to grow, but if they, for whatever reason, say no, you're fine because you're not attached to them doing anything for their own growth. I know it's getting really complex and complicated, but really this is such a common trap for us, especially who live in these conscious communities. It's so easy to fall into this idea that I'm in a way better, that I am right and you're not, that I am more spiritual, I'm more conscious, that I'm more advanced than you. And look, something that has to be said is that this is their life, not yours, and you do not decide for them. But you do decide for yourself. And I think this is why people are sometimes really afraid and why they push so much. Because you start observing that you're really not compatible with your partner, that your growth is going in a certain direction and they're not matching you. So you kind of try to push them to keep matching you so that you can keep, be this compatible couple. But sometimes you may not be compatible anymore. And then you have to decide, okay, am I just giving it some time, we can grow apart a little bit, trusting that we'll come back together? Or is it too much? Is it something that, like I'm not okay with? Like, you have all the right not to want to look at it and work with it, but for me, it crosses in a way my boundary, or it's in a way against my integrity. So yeah, it's like, look, I would love for you to look into this thing that is, in your life. And if you're not ready, I need you to know that it may be very hard for me to be with you. Again, you have the right to choose this for yourself. But also don't use it as a manipulation. Don't say that like, oh, you're not conscious, you're not spiritual. If you don't, you're projecting. If you don't heal that, then I'm going to leave you. That is really unconscious from your side. So once again, as you can see, it's extremely complex. Like, our egos are really, really brilliant at their job. Okay? And so you may start by really coming from your higher self, and you will not even notice when this higher self shut up. And now it's the ego talking. And you still think that you're talking from your higher self, but you're actually not. And this is why I think generally it's so important that in a relationship you focus on yourself, not on changing your partner. And then exactly you have to make a decision, whatever is this relationship right now, is this for the best for you or not? And again, sometimes it may mean that you will go separate ways. But again, this is the choice that both of you are making. No one is forcing anyone to do anything. So these are these two main traps that conscious couples fall into, and they become too conscious, and eventually they actually break up, and usually in even nasty ways because of that, because they took things too far and too seriously. So remember, yes, relationships are about growth, and absolutely you do want to do inner work. You do want to bring awareness to when you are projecting, when you are being triggered. You do want to focus on talking, but just remember, don't forget the fun stuff. Don't forget that sometimes it's just about being in the present moment and enjoying whatever is, without having to always do the inner work, because it is tiring. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'm curious, have you noticed yourself or your partner or any other couple, any of your friends, fall into one of these two traps? And if you have, share it below. And maybe there's something else that you have observed, some other behaviors in which you also kind of make yourself a bit too conscious, and by that you step out of the actual consciousness of the connection between you and the partner. We are still learning all from each other. So I love hearing your stories, because this way I get to learn from you, and other people also get to learn from your stories. And if you enjoyed this video, please like it, share with your friends, subscribe to my YouTube channel. And if you would like to stay in touch and get some, personal information about me as well, please follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and sign up for my newsletter. You will find all the links below. So if you enjoyed it, and if you would like to more, I would absolutely love to take our relationship a bit further. So thank you so much for tuning in. Have a lovely day. Mwah.